that I would like to see if I could get some kind of agreement on is that where we do have some wiggle room is in how the permit process is done around here. And I would like to see, let me just repeat what I said earlier. There's no such thing as replacement in kind anymore. But I could envision a permit that had a fee attached to it, that was inspected, whatever, but it is considered somehow something that is more or less enough of a repair. You don't expand the living space, you don't have changes to the electric, the plumbing, and whatever, where it is kept in-house. That we don't send those over to the town of Brookhaven because it's really not, it's not going to factor into your assessments in any way. Since the town of Brookhaven determines your taxes, you never know what happens when it leaves the building, it goes over to the town. So what I'd like to see is some way of crafting a process within our codes that allows us to say you need to have, whatever you're doing, if it's structural, if it holds up something, it needs, regardless of size, it needs to be inspected. If it needs to be inspected, there's going to be a permit and a fee attached to it, probably a very minimal fee. And as long as it's okay, the records are kept here, wouldn't be sent over to the town of Brookhaven, because to me, there's no need for it. That's my suggestion.
I'm confused because I thought at the last meeting it was stated that not every permit does go to Brookhaven.
It's
now.
not in our codes, though.
It's not in the code. Okay, because I mean I
It's
thought that's
just
what I
like,
was hearing, that we didn't have to, so I didn't know why. Okay.
To formalize it, so
Okay.
I just wanted to tell you why the town of Brookhaven doesn't have a lot of old house COs. There was a fire that destroyed a lot of their records. I've sold many houses that were old, and you'd have to go and get a certificate of existing use because during that fire they lost a lot. And that, I think, was in the 40s. Right, Joe?
It was 57.
Okay, 57. So a lot of the stuff is gone.
But the fact remains is that if
Yeah.
they don't have it and we send over a whole file, then they now have it and they might take a look at it. Sure.
Yeah, well, the thing that Jeff that you were just referring to now, Joe, would that be doable under what you're saying, you know, that the village now has to adopt the international code, you know, in New York State to be uniform? Do we have wiggle room to do something what Jeff was just saying? He envisions that, you know, we have, like, do we, that's just one part of my question. Can we,
So I think the proposal is that we come up with a code that limits the information that we get to Brookhaven. Is that what you're talking about?
Not that we're limiting it, it's just not, it's not part of the, it's in concept, it is something like an inspected replacement in kind. But there is no legal entity replacement in kind, but what we're saying in terms of the process, there's no need to send it over to the town of Brookhaven. So, but we would clearly delineate which types of jobs you wouldn't need to send over there. And to me, the biggest issue would be not only you don't want somebody all of a sudden assessing you necessarily, but also a big problem with permits is whether you have it on your books or not, people will look for an excuse not to fill out a permit. It costs money, it's time, it's effort, it's, I'll just do it, it's a small job. So as soon as we start to add on to that process, it's one more reason to not have people do it. I think we're going to have less compliance.
So this is something that's different in every village. Some villages actually refuse to provide the information. Some villages just send it over, a couple times a year in packages. Some villages wait to see what's asked for. I mean, we might take the approach that we wait to see when it's asked for. But the problem, my only comment as your legal advisor would be that the taxes are based on the value of the property, and that's somehow supposed to be related to the services that you receive from the village. And if somebody is building, major things, if somebody adds a deck, or rebuilds a deck that was there anyway, I mean, I know that's up to you. It should be reported. If it is or isn't, it's up to you. But if somebody builds an addition or a house, I mean, they're not only, they're not, you know, I mean, their taxes might go up, sure, but I mean, they're also getting services from the village, let alone the services they get from the town.
And I'm agreeing with you, Joe, because you said it better than I did, but we're saying the same thing. Which is to say that if somebody builds an addition, it should go over, it should be included in your assessment. And that process is, since Brookhaven does it, that's the process for getting it reassessed. But to replace a sagging roof on a porch and have it done correctly, there's no reason to send it over.
Okay, well, that's something we
As
can
long
talk
as long as there are villages who send nothing over, there's a precedent as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, because it should be inspected. Mike Chaffee, I think, made an effective case for, you'd be surprised how people make things and they're just substandard. And it's good enough, but until something happens. So he feels that these things should at least be checked out. But it's not as if they're increasing living space. They're not using electricity and whatever. They're just doing something that got old and they're rebuilding it correctly, hopefully.
Okay. So I also read the open meeting thing, or the public hearing thing, and contacted the clerk's office by phone because I can't come in during work hours. And what I was told was that there was going to be presented here language about a change in code, and that change in code would be presented here. Do you have specific language of the change in code that you want considered?
The option for
This is just what I was told by
the option for tonight was that we could have tabled the public hearing and just not done anything, or had to open the public hearing and accept comments. And my recommendation was that we open the hearing and accept comments, because we're still drafting this. So it wasn't ready. There was nothing ready to be presented. I explained several of the reasons why. We could have tabled the canceled or tabled the public hearing and just left it at that. But there's people here obviously that wanted to learn about it and talk about it. And I think that it's important to get public comment at the beginning of the drafting process, not only at the end of the drafting
I
process.
totally agree with that. Yeah, so could I read the ad that I happen to have? It's stuck in my papers here. But the ad says that, and I think what the issue really is, what is a public hearing? What's the formal definition of public
No,
hearing?
I understand that.
But can I read the ad? Can I read the ad? It said, Incorporated Village, blah, 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 to obtain resident input to propose changes in the village code, chapter 183, section 183, 6, definitions, and so on and so on, and building permits. Any person wishing to comment on the proposed changes may do so at this hearing.
Right.
Okay, so what we're talking about is
Continue.
we don't have,
It said to
we
pick
don't
up
have-
at the clerk.
it is not crafted into a law yet. It's not that we're saying, this is the
But
letter.
I'm just saying what was told to me when I called the clerk's office. When I called the clerk's office, I was told there was going to be specific wording proposed for us to consider. And so I was just asking if there was specific wording for us to consider, and if not, then that's fine. But I was just asking with regards to what I was told.
I can't read something.
So no, you didn't get any, you didn't get any answers.
There is no wording.
Yeah, I get, because it appears there's no specific wording, otherwise the clerk would have read it out, and then there would be discussion among the trustees, and then they'd ask us to give our comments, which can happen. This is not an official public hearing, but it was put in the legals, and you guys pay for that. Maybe it's cheap, but I mean, just next time, maybe if it's going to be an informal thing, it might be better for the mayor to use, your email thing. Say, like you did with the dogs, thing where before we went to official public hearing, you put it out there, saying, we want to talk about this, come and talk about it. So we're talking about it, and I think what I'm seeing based on this handout that we got, I don't know if everybody got it, but it shows what Jeff found is that in the building code, we have one definition of a structure, and in the zoning code, we have a different definition of a structure. But what I learned tonight, listening to Mr. Poquott, is that we may or may not want to consider changing the zoning definition. But my understanding is that it may be specific. The reason why it's different, this is old and antiquated, but as you're moving forward, if you want to have different definitions, it would be because there's a different purpose of that chapter.
I agree with you, and that's why you notice in the town of Brookhaven, that's how they do it. They have pages of definition of structure as used for,
As used for that chapter.
as used for.
Right, so it may be different for zoning as it is for building, as it is for whatever other chapters we have. And if that's the intent, I'm not sure what you guys wanna do. We're just now learning that there's an issue. I would recommend if you wanna have the zoning board look at whether or not we would see an issue with definitions as it pertains to zoning. I don't know if that's something you wanna do, but I would just throw it out there. We usually only meet when we have to, because when we have an application before us, but
Anyone who wants to do anything on that floor.
Yeah, it's a pretty big job.
yeah.
That's what I'm certainly.
No, I know. You said you didn't
Good job.
read the whole Poquott Village Code, and that, but if I'm trying to get a grasp of what the issue really is and how you want to address it.
Well, the issue is that you feel it's not clear when you need to get a permit or not, correct? Because this structure's not
Yeah, at the
defined.
very least, and that's how it came up. At the very least, this could be an enormous job or it could be pretty simple, which is to say, to get everybody in the same page, literally, on when you need a building permit according to the definition of structure.
Okay, so that sounds
And I
like
think,
we have to
you
do
know,
the zoning
and it's
board.
just not articulated in our code. So we can agree that if you want to put up a little garden arbor in the corner of your property, it's small enough, it's under the square footage that would, you might call it a structure in some way, but it doesn't qualify as a legal definition of structure in our code. You don't need a permit, you don't have to do anything. There may be some back and forth, I don't know how people would feel about it. If you get a shed that is conforming, it's 144 square feet, and you bring it to your property line 3 feet back, you're okay, but suppose it's not movable if you put down a slab, for example, and it's built like a garage would be, where it's, so we may or may not say, well, that's a different case. So there's a lot of different ways that we can actually spell this out, where you do and you don't. But right now, I don't know if anybody in the room has done it, but if you go and you try and figure out what exactly is a structure that needs a permit, it's not clear. Even the size of a shed has changed. And Joe read off a couple of other things that need to be changed. So if anybody wants to weigh in on something like that, well, is a shed different if it's on a slab or if it's not on a slab? If it's not on a slab, it could be moved, but if it's permanently affixed to the ground. And that's why I put that thing in from Wikipedia at the bottom. Because it defines real estate as land and everything fixed and immovable. So, should we incorporate that into the terminology?
I think, I would just say that if the board and the building department are clear on what the definition is, then anybody who wants to, hey, I want to put a shed, do I need a permit or not? If they get a hold of the building clerk, they can answer that for them. I think that's normally the way this.
But it doesn't work like that. They go, well, show me where it says that, or we don't think
Well,
it's.
some people do. Some people call and say, hey, this is what I want to do. They either get Joe or they get Cindy. And Joe and Cindy are knowledgeable, or if they're not, they'll say, I'll check, I'll get back to
So
you.
many times they'll say, no, that's not what the code reads.
Yes, and that was me.
Okay.
That's how this whole thing started. Is I filled out a section, page 1, as a courtesy, because that's what we're supposed to do. And because it said in the code that I don't need it, and then they said, oh, you do. You really do. And I said, no, I don't. It says right here that you don't. Well, we think that because it's structural in some way that you should have one. I said, but look, it's not what you think, it's what the law says. So we have to go back and take a look at the laws and make them conform. That's what it is.
That's how.
So that's what we owe it. Yes.
Would it be more effective if you in fact did this ahead of time and gave us the wording that you would recommend so that we could see something in front of us?
We will do that.
Let me finish. Because it seems like we're going in circles. I don't understand why we're here and what we're trying to achieve. Shed, no shed. It doesn't really make any sense to me.
Okay, well, my answer to that would be that if there's been one theme that has been recurring in these meetings since I've been here, it's that I wasn't informed. I was not brought in on it. So if there's ever going to be a time where I think that we should lean
Bring us
over
in
and
an organized way, not a random way. This is random, in my
I
opinion.
apologize. This is as organized as I ever get.
Okay. Then I understand
Voting
better.
for that.
This is the best it gets. Okay.
So is this limited to just sheds? This
Oh, no,
meeting?
no. The issue that I had.
You've already
Let's
spent
not waste it.
A lot of time
40
was spent.
minutes on a shed.
Okay, all right. I'm done if nobody has anything else to add.
I don't have anything else.
So, Jeff, I think I get what you're saying, and I understand it. A couple different issues we're talking about. One is adopting state code, which is not an option because we can't go lower. And we can't go higher as a village. We have to conform to that, which is great. Because if somebody does something new, you want to make sure it's safe and that it's done properly, right? But whatever is decided upon as far as permit, no permit, size of the shed, where it's located, all that, aside from all that, going forward, if you've done nothing to your house, there's gonna be some type of, I would assume, some type of grandfather clause. Because as people sell their houses and inspectors come in, there are questions. Like my water meter is in my neighbor's driveway. When I bought the house, I had to sign off to the fact that, my property really wasn't where it says on paper. Some of it's in Sharon's, I've got some of Kevin's, he's got some of mine, my water. So that type of thing, what I'm getting at is we could certainly open up the gates of hell if we don't keep it specific and, you get your own going with it too.
I do, and fortunately, as an incorporated village, we have a way of dealing with that thing for,
That's all I'm afraid. I don't want Brookhaven to take
Exactly.
over because that's one of the reasons I moved here. The house I bought, I wouldn't have bought it anywhere else in the world because it was a shambles. And I've done my best as things happen to put it back together under code. Anyway.
very good.
Right, so shall we,
I have a question. It's just a question to what was stated. It said that in 183-19, the clerk was issuing permits, but really the clerk's not supposed to issue permits. I'm perfectly okay with that, but what happens if somebody a long time ago got a permit issued by the clerk? Is it still a good, or a CO, is that still good because you have it and it was already done?
Yes.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
well,
Did you say someone very softly? What does that mean?
I think it should be changed. That's my.
What do you mean it should be changed?
It was a practice of the village to have the clerk, I understand that it was a practice of the village to have the clerk sometimes sign the authority was delegated to the clerk, basically, is what I think happened.
I understand that. I'm just asking you, since it was delegated to the clerk, if somebody owns a home where the delegated clerk signed the CO, that would be grandfathered as we go forward? Will it be?
I don't think that even discussion has to even, I don't think that question even needs to be raised. I don't think it's a question of being grandfathered. I think that it was honored at the time as recognized as an official document of the village.
All right, that would be the question. And the answer is yes?
It was recognized as,
Will it continue to be recognized?
it's not up to, my recommendation is that it would be, yes.
Okay.
It's not up to me.
any other?
I'd like to know, are we having, other than having to streamline our codes for protocol, are we having significant problems in this town with permits? Is there a significant issue that we spend this much time on this one particular topic?
No, not anymore.
Not anymore. Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion to close the public interest.
So moved.
I think, do you wanna close it or adjourn it?
Adjourn, I guess.
Yeah, I think I'll adjourn it.
Okay. All right. Motion to
Adjourn.
adjourn it?